Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. I'm sitting in the Tony Awards suite at the Sofitel NYC, which is the official hotel of the 2019 Tony Awards. And I'm sitting with Gideon Glick, who was nominated for Best Featured Actor in a Play for his captivating role of Dill in Aaron Sorkin's To Kill a Mockingbird. Well, first of all, thank you for sitting with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Now listen, what is it like living in the world of Harper Lee and Aaron Sorkin?
It's a wonderful gift.
It is a wonderful gift,
It's a wonderful gift to do this show every night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like when you first found out this was happening and you were going to go in for it, like
Yes.
you knew the book very well before you started?
I mean, I read the book in 7th grade. I remembered key characters like Scout and Atticus, Boo, and Tom, and Calpurnia. But that's all I really, and then a little bit of Jem. I actually didn't, I remember Dill a bit, but not so much. I knew there was a friend, but that was really it.
So when you started working on this, like your Dill is so brilliant.
Thank you, that's very nice of you to say.
I tell you this over and over and over.
It's still very nice.
I love watching you make magic on stage.
Thank you.
So when you started working on this, what kind of conversations did you have with Aaron about Dill and who he was going to be?
Yeah, well, you know, obviously I've said many times Truman Capote was a really, really large inspiration, and it was big for Aaron as well in kind of fleshing Dill out, because as I don't know if everybody knows, but Dill is based off of young Truman Capote. Harper Lee and Truman Capote grew up next door to each other, and they promised each other that they would put each other in their first books. So that really was the springboard for me. And talking to Aaron a lot, Aaron was very... Dill is joy. Dill is optimism through all this cruelty. Dill is seeing the good in everybody. And he's Atticus's biggest cheerleader, too. And so that was really, really important, is kind of having that joy, especially in the first act. Because in the first act, all of Dill's scenes are really, it's really about Boo. It's about the adventure. It's about kids being kids. And that was really, really important for this piece, because a lot of the book is about that. But in this adaptation, it's mostly about Atticus and the court, and so it was really important to me that it was strong and memorable.
So did you read Truman Capote books?
Yes, I read two wonderful biographies on Capote. I read a couple of his books as well. Actually, a lot of his books.
Yeah.
I went down to Monroeville, which is where Maycomb is based off of. I watched Capote. No, that didn't. I mean, that was just an amazing film. But it wasn't really about an impersonation in any way. It's mostly an homage. It's about a spirit. It's about. Yeah. I would hope maybe this is what he was like as a child. I don't know.
It's like an essence of.
Yes, and actually, a really nice little tidbit is Capote's memorial was held at the Schubert Theater. Isn't that amazing?
That's great.
So I like to think that he's looking down on me. I have a beautiful portrait of him in my dressing room that my fiancée Perry gave to me too. Yeah. So he's really part of the fabric.
So the play is sort of different from the book. Mm-hmm. I love what Aaron has done with this. I think it's one of the greatest American plays.
It's a brilliant adaptation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about, I remember reading somewhere where you said during the preview period, you had conversations with Aaron and your director, Bart, about where you thought Dill was going. Tell me about that conversation.
Well, it was really important to me that though Dill is levity and he's fun, but it was important to me that it was balanced with the pathos and really ensuring that this kind of house of cards is intact and what's underneath is also really intact. But that was always there. It was mostly just an insecurity that it would be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharing the stage with Celia and Will. What is that experience like?
It's kind of been one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had on stage. It's almost mystical. It's strange to say. We kind of think of ourselves as one unit, one character. It doesn't exist without the other, and it's a really beautiful thing. And there's something kind of remarkable that you can just tap in, look at each other in each other's eyes, and it can move you, and it can keep you present. And especially when playing a child, children are really present. They don't have filters. They don't have preconceived notions of who they're going to be and how they're appearing. They're really just there. Yeah. And the writing is so rich, the writing is so incredible, the relationships are there, but there's also something really magical when three very different people are are in a room together, are sharing a floor together, and the love that we have for each other is very, very real.
All right, let's talk about that floor, that dressing room floor.
The kids' floor is what
It's called the kids' floor?
call it. Yeah.
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 Where is it in the theater?
It is the second
Okay.
second floor. We have a lot of candy, a lot of Sour Patch Kids, a lot of Sour Patch watermelons, a lot of cookies, a lot of Skittles. I don't know what happened. I think we've regressed as we've entered that theater, and I have not been to the dentist since we started, and I'm really nervous.
Your teeth are beautiful.
You're a kind man.
Who brought all the candy?
Well, it started with ourselves,
Okay.
and then our dresser really she's an enabler, and she keeps us well stocked. And we also really do like schmackery cookies. Those funfetti cookies are they really help us.
I'm sure all the adults visit your floor.
No, because there's a lot of stairs, but
For a candy boost?
Stark, Benga, and
Yeah.
Fred come down, and they definitely are stealing from us, but they can, because we need to get rid of this candy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're working with one of the finest directors.
Yes,
with
I
Bart
am.
Scher. Had you worked with Bart before?
I'd never worked with Bart. I had auditioned for Bart, and I remember really, really, really liking the process. It felt like, it didn't feel like an audition. It felt like he was working with me. It felt
Yeah.
like we were just in a room, really just working on the text. And I remember thinking, oh, wow, this feels very civilized. And this whole process has been extraordinary, and it's a lot to do with him.
So when you went in, like, what was your process like for this, your rehearsal process? I mean, first take me back to the audition process for Bart for this.
Well, there wasn't an audition process, so I feel very, very lucky.
Good for you.
They had done 2 readings of it, and then I came in for their first 3-week workshop, and it was this kind of magical moment. It was a cold read, so I wasn't able to read it before, and it was in front of Aaron and Bart and Scott in a Southern accent. Aaron Sorkin dialogue. I've never been that nervous. I remember on the subway, my heart was it was out of my body, but it was a magical thing.
Yeah.
And when it was over, I knew this is for me. This is where I belong. It was really, really magical. And then they officially offered it to me about a week later. It was a 3-week workshop, so halfway through.
You know when you're reading something or being in the room with a group,
Yeah.
you know when you're like, this is perfection.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have to do this.
Oh yeah. I mean, the actors in this show, the company, the creative team, it's amazing. And for how large it is, it's kind of shocking at how seamless it's all been. And everyone is bringing their top of their game. And everyone's really, really happy to be there. It's an incredible piece. We've been around, you know. We know that this is a rare thing. We know the audiences every night. This doesn't happen like this. The way they receive the show, the way it's a transformative experience. And so, and we kind of knew right away. We knew it was an important piece to the nation just because of what it was, but we also knew how good it was. We did.
I also love that you're in the beautiful Schubert Theater, which is primarily a musical house.
Mm-hmm.
But this play and this production is so intimate in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah.
you feel that when you're up there?
Yeah, I mean, you can feel the audience being so taken with it. But I will say it's intimate, but also Bart has done an extraordinary job of its scale in terms of how things go in and out. And I would say this actually it's a really good seat in the mezzanine because because there are so many people, and I think it's really remarkable to see how expansive it can be, because you don't get that often with a play.
Let's go back to the beginning. Was there a defining moment for you when you said, I have to be an actor? I have to do this or try to make a living at this?
I mean, I've never had any other idea of what I could do. So, I started as a singer primarily.
Did you?
Well, I was doing piano lessons, and I really didn't like the piano, and I started singing instead.
Yeah.
And so I knew, okay, I can do this. And so I started doing musical theater as a way to sing in front of people, and then all of a sudden acting kind of became what I did primarily. I thought I was going to be a musical theater actor. I never thought I'd be a play actor, and now I have been. I mean, I'm still a musical theater actor,
sure.
but it's been a while.
What was that first play you did that wasn't a musical?
The first play I did that wasn't a musical, I was 11 years old, and I did a play called there was the Three Musketeers, and I played a young Louis XIV. I was the Sun King, and I had this gold costume and this glitter on my face, and it was pretty amazing.
You're like, boy, they do this in a play. It doesn't have to be a musical.
Yes, yeah. And that was actually my first professional production. And then I did a production of Peter Pan and Wendy, which was like the new Peter Pan.
Yeah.
That Ted Sperling, an incredible conductor, he directed it in Philadelphia. And I did the Snow Queen that Pat Birch directed, who directed Grease 2. So
One of my favorite movies. Michelle Pfeiffer, Maxwell
Ditto.
Caulfield.
I'll be your girl for
Cool
all
writer.
seasons.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, we're going out one night.
I know.
We're gonna do a screening of Grease 2.
All right, I'd be into that.
But you remember like that first performance on stage. I mean, you remember that first time when you were like 11 or whatever, when you were on stage. You remember that feeling?
I don't remember it exactly with the Three Musketeers.
Yeah.
I remember it was mostly singing. I remember I did this musical theater showcase, and I don't remember when it was in the timeline, but
Yeah.
I sang Colors of the Wind, and I was so nervous that cause I didn't want to look at the audience, so I did this the entire time, and my family was like, "You cannot do that again." But I remember the nerves and the thrill of getting to sing a solo. Because not everyone got to do the solo.
Yeah.
And I remember, and I was really young for the group, and it was thrilling and terrifying.
But you got through it, and then you're like, I can relax into this, right?
Yeah, but it's always a little terrifying, singing.
Yeah.
It's always terrifying, and then at the end, you're like, oh, I'm glad I did that.
Because I'm always asking people, like, do you prefer one to the other? Not that one's easier than the other.
What, singing than acting?
Yeah, like doing a musical as opposed to a play.
I mean, it's been so long since I've done a musical,
Yeah.
so it's hard to say. I mean, plays are. I will say I've been thinking a lot about. I saw Lindsay Mendez last night.
Oh.
She came to see the show, and I was thinking about her last year doing this kind of all this extra wonderful stuff during the Tony that whole month. But the idea of having to sing at the end of all of this, that's hard. That's really hard. You have these long days,
Yeah.
and then you have to preserve your voice. So there's a lot of anxiety that comes with that. I don't have to worry about that so much. So that's nice.
Because I asked Matthew Morrison when he was doing his first play, and he said, it's the same amount of work, but he said it's just a little easier off my nerves of saying that like it's a different kind of mindset.
I think the anxiety with preserving your voice.
Yeah.
And I'll say and it's just been a long time, but I feel a wonderful sense of freedom doing a play. You have your text, you have your blueprint, but scenes are long and you can go so many different directions, and that's something that I really enjoy about doing plays.
Do you have a favorite scene that you do in Mockingbird, or does it change?
I think it shifts. It's hard to pick a favorite. It is.
It changes every night, or
It
just
seems every night, or sometimes you have a week where you're like, "Oh, this is really amazing," or it's really in the pocket, and you're not overthinking it, and everything's kind of balanced and so forth. And then other scenes start to take shape. Yeah.
Going back to your director, Bart is a brilliant director. What was the rehearsal process like, and what makes him such an incredible director for you to work with?
He's not result oriented.
Yeah.
He's he takes his time. I think of him as a painter or a sketcher or a sculptor. He just kind of chisels away, and he's not about the end result. So as a result, you have this sense of freedom, and I almost think of it as like he just kind of has all these pages of sketches, and you just keep going through it, and whatever the play is today is different than it was 2 weeks ago, and he's very, very aware of that, and so it has this, it's fluid.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the beautiful thing of what this is. I mean, you can't set it in stone in any way. The audience is different every night anyway, so the show is going to be different. And he's so smart, he's so intellectual, and he has such an incredible grasp on history and also theater history and opera. He brings that to his work. I mean, he's a real artist.
This plays like a musical. I mean, just the tone of how he directs.
Yeah,
and how you deliver.
And also the scenes they're short scenes. You know, they some of them are just a page and a half, and then we go to a completely different location, and there's a lot of them, and so it does feel like a musical. I think you're right.
brilliantly cast. I mean, the cast in your show. I mean, I walked by them and I looked at every single name and I was like, this is like the best of the best.
It's incredible.
Working in this, sharing the stage with Jeff Daniels. Did you know Jeff before this?
No, I mean, I was a really, really big admirer of his work. I never knew him personally.
So what's it like working with him?
I mean, Jeff is he's
acting with him.
Well, he's an actor's actor, and he really cares about the craft, and he has his own theater company in Michigan where he writes and he runs the company. He's about the work, and to see somebody who is as well known as he is, and it's not about the fame. It's about the work, and that's what everyone has brought to the table.
Yeah.
It's about the work, and I think you see that a lot in the theater, and it's amazing again to see all these actors of all different ages and being so committed to the craft. It's a beautiful thing.
You know, you talk about the three of you as the kids. What's the last thing you do before you hit the stage for each performance?
The last thing we do before we hit the stage, first of all, when we gather, we all get there about an hour ahead of time, and we typically do a check-in. I mean, we talk for about 20 to 30 minutes every day. We check in, talk about our days, talk about our partners, our life, the show. Then we go do our warm-up, and then we reconvene, and we all walk together. Nobody goes to the stage without the other. We all walk down together. We all come up together. We're one living being. It's really how we see it.
Yeah. Where does this role fit into your career? I mean, this is such an important role for you, isn't it?
Yeah. It's amazing to be part of something that it's old and new all at once. It's an important piece to the nation. It's a really, I think, an incredible new adaptation. I love that I get to be a part of it. I love that. I feel that the character of Dill has not been. This is a piece about empathy and otherness, and it hasn't really been taught about who this queer kid is and where he belongs in the book. People don't get taught that often, and so I'm really excited about excavating that and kind of making it way more part of the narrative, and Dill kind of finally being part of the conversation. Because he's an extraordinary character, and I think Aaron has done an extraordinary way of bringing him into this piece, and so I just feel really lucky that I get to play this part.
Finally, if you could sum up the best part of the experience, it's a big question, of being a part of Mockingbird, what is it for you?
Being part of this company, without a doubt.
I thank you. Like I said, I think you make magic 8 times a week. You're so good at what you do.
You're very kind.
And I'm looking at you right now, and I'm watching like the scenes of you in this show, like sitting with Atticus and everything else. But it's so great what you do.
Well,
so
thank you.
Thanks for dropping by.
Of course.